Here's the car. All the contour work is finished, with the exception of some small little textural details in the background, but those can be accomplished when we begin to shade, which is what we are about to do right now. In order to do this properly, you want the right tools. Now, a regular pencil will work fine, but I find that a softer lead pencil like a 6B works very well, especially for the really dark areas like the wheel wells and the tires, or in any part of your picture that's really, really dark. It doesn't necessarily have to be a car, but anywhere it's dark, this is going to help you out a lot by having a soft lead pencil. It's also less reflective, so you get less of that graphite shine that you have to deal with. You'll need a good eraser, and it's a really nice thing to have one of these, which is a blending stump. And I'll show you how to use this to make your shading, especially in the lighter areas, really, really smooth and well blended. Okay, so let's get right into it. I think I'm going to work on the front area here with the fog light and the grill and this under tray area. So I always start with the very darkest parts first. I want to establish what black is in my picture, what the darkest value is. And in order to do that, I'm just going to use this. I'm going to press as firmly as I can without breaking the tip or poking a hole through the paper and see where that gets me. I'll slide these off to the side. I always want to have the piece that I'm working on in hand so I can refer to it closely as I'm working. So this piece comes from right here, and I'm going to go ahead and do these really dark areas first. So let's go ahead and start. And I'm going to keep this in my hand as I do this. When you are working on this, it's important to use correct technique. Right here, I'm doing what's called cross hatching. So I am using multiple layers of hatching to get the value as smooth as I can, and in this case, as dark as I can. So I'm using quite a good amount of pressure on this to get the right level of darkness out of it. So using pressure is important. Being able to modulate that pressure, whether it's hard pressure or light pressure. Here is also really dark, so getting in there and doing that. You can see the way that I'm holding my pencil close to the tip is going to give me the advantage in being able to apply more pressure. If I want to shade lightly, I will probably switch my grip and move it further back towards the end of the pencil, thus lessening the amount of pressure that I can put on the tip and automatically give me lighter shades without much thought or effort. So you can see here and there as I'm doing my hatching, there's some lighter areas that I can just go back with another pass the opposite direction and take care of those. Shading things thoroughly and neatly takes time, but it's a worthwhile endeavor. I'm actually going to get the other front wheel. Let's see, it's in here somewhere. There it is. This piece right here, you can see that really dark value continues on into this area underneath the bumper. So I'm just going to continue shading into there. So again, full on black is the very first value you want to do because it's the easiest. There's no question when you press as hard as you can that what you get is going to be the black for that picture. Okay? So that's what I want you to do, is establish your black point. And consider the direction that you are drawing in and make sure that you're cross-hatching to keep things smooth and not look scratchy. Okay, so I feel that these areas are looking pretty good. So the question is, once I understand what black is, where can I find white in my picture? And wherever I can find white in my picture, I won't apply any value, because the paper is my white. I can only get so light, and I can only get so dark. So once you define the extremes, then you're free to define the transitional values, the grays, and the colors in between. And so that's what I need to begin doing now. Okay. Now I'm working fairly quickly, but let's say I take this piece, for instance, right here. It fits right there. Actually, no, it fits right there. The hood looks white. It isn't actually white. That's not the lightest thing in the picture. If I look at some other pieces, we can compare that, which we think is white, and we can compare that to other colors. Like this little highlight along the edge of the car near the wheel arch on the rear wheel is lighter than that by comparison. So figure out what the lightest value is in your picture, and that's what's going to be white. So you can compare things. And it looks like I don't actually have any white in my picture at all, even though the car is white. I can't leave it white, because then I wouldn't be able to see the different shadows and stuff that are on it. So looking at this bumper, just this bumper, I can see on the hood, I've got a lighter gray. On the edge of the top of the bumper, I've got a lighter gray. I've got kind of a medium gray on the front of it, and a darker gray underneath this edge right here, just around these little slots in the lower grille. So I'm gonna go ahead and shade those in a nice dark gray. But I've got to be cognizant of the fact that it's not gonna be black, and I have to do it smoothly. So applying a value in light passes going from different directions and cross-hatching is going to be what gives me my best result. Okay, so moving up from that, this value in this area is lighter than that. So now I'm switching the grip on my pencil. I'm actually going to put the end of it in my palm so I can wrap my fingers around it, and this will enable me to lay it down at a very shallow angle, so I can use the side of the lead and not the point to get the level of value that I need. Once I do that, I can begin to blend and smooth, because I don't want to see any of these marks in my final shading. So I'm going to use the blending stump to smooth this out. And I'm going to check the level of value in there periodically to make sure that I've got it at the right level. I'll smooth this out down here as well. So this fog light needs a little bit of attention. There's kind of a darker area right here in it, and kind of a darker edge here and there. The center of it is pretty bright, so I'm not going to put any value in there. Also, I need to be careful not to smudge or blend any value into that spot, because I want to preserve that light right there. So there we go. This ridge right here is quite light. You can see that. So I'm going to try a trick. I'm going to use the blending stump without putting any lead in it. There's some stuck to the blending stump. I'm going to use this and just go over that with the blending stump, not adding any more graphite, just smoothing out that area. Because what'll happen is that this will transfer some of this graphite from the end of the blending stump onto the paper, and kind of shade that area for me a really, really light tone. So I can come in here and I can check and see, did I make that gray dark enough? And it's looking like it needs to be a little bit darker. A way to find out that that's the case or not the case is if you put that in front of you and you kind of squint your eyes, you can kind of check and see if things are dark enough, and that clearly isn't. There's also a bit of a line running through there that I'll have to add later after I get it to be the right darkness, because I don't want to smudge that line. So I'm going to add some more graphite, and then we'll see if that was enough. And we'll blend that as well. And see, we will compare. And it's looking really close. It actually might be a little dark in some areas. As a matter of fact, right here, it seems to me to be a little bit dark. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the eraser. Now, not the way that you would expect. Instead of scrubbing at it, which would take all of the graphite off, I'm going to pounce it. And pouncing is just the act of tapping. And what happens is you can see that graphite begins to come up. So here's a clean section right here. If I tap that area, you can see the graphite comes up off of the paper and sticks to the eraser. So I can very gently and carefully adjust the value of an area by lightening it with the eraser without scrubbing any of that value off. I can actually remove it gradually by pouncing, by tapping. Okay, so I'm going to continue with this in a time lapse. Well, here is the final product. I did a bit of a rush job, but you can clearly see the different values of white and gray on the paint job of the car, even though it's a white car. Might kind of soften this area a little bit. The contrast is a bit high, so I can take my blending stump and soften that very lightly. Yeah, so blending stump, eraser, soft lead pencil, and a little bit of time will get you a shaded drawing.